Welcome to the Kingdom Housing Podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Terrence Garcia, and I am live with a good friend of mine, Gladston White, who's a business funding expert. He's been helping other people get funded. He's very familiar when it comes to structuring your business entity, getting business funding. He can help you with taxes. He can anything regarding credit, money. I call him the money man. He's the guy to connect with. So very excited to dive into our conversation.
You may have a great idea, phenomenal, top tier, but you don't know business at this point. Go find somebody to mentor you, because the fastest way to and the safest way to cross a minefield is to find the person that crossed it already. They know where the mines are. They can show you through the path or how to get from one side to the other.
Gladston, aka G, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well, sir. How about yourself?
I cannot complain. So, what's the number one reason most small business owners overpay in taxes?
Not knowing the tax law. Basically, what I mean by that is that they don't know the rules of the game. The whole business sector, the United States tax code was written for businesses because the United States is a business. So the benefits are for businesses, and you have to know the tax code. If once you know the tax code, you know how to play the game. And like I always say, taxes are ghetto.
What do you mean by that? Taxes are ghetto?
Because so basically what I mean by it like this. If all the cards are stacked in your favor, all you have to do is learn how to play the game. If you pay taxes, it's ghetto. You misinformed, you don't know the rules of the game, you're trying to play and you're losing. It's basically like an open book test. You
Right.
Look in the book, write the answers, and you get 100.
It's a good way to look at it. Okay. And how would somebody go about kind of learning the tax game?
So if that's something you want to do, my power to you. I always live by this simple rule. I'm simple. Know what you know.
Yep.
Know who knows what you don't know.
Yep.
That's all you need to know. If the lights go out right now, I'm going to go flip the switch. Okay, that ain't working. I'm going to go to the breaker, flip the breaker. That's all I know how to do. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm calling an electrician. Like, hey, my lights are out. The breaker ain't working. Come fix it. So that's what I mean. Know what you know. Know who knows what you don't know. That's all you need to know. If you keep it simple like that, you'll win every time. So what I mean by that is, you know your business, whether it's catering, trucking, real estate, whatever. Specialize in that. Find an expert who knows the tax code and leverage them, because learning the tax code is a full-time job.
That's good. Really good advice right there. So would you say it really is possible for someone to make six figures and pay nothing in taxes legally?
All day, every day.
All day, every day. All right. So break that down. How does someone, no, I know you can't dive into like the exact details. Everyone's setup's going to be different, but why is it that people are almost afraid to get over that six-figure mark because of the taxes that they're, hear that they're going to have to pay, the 40%, 50%? How can someone then, you're saying, pay nothing and still make above six figures?
So what I see a lot of people do is, and this is no shot against them. All right, you start business, you start making money.
Yep.
Right? You have the uncle, sister, cousin, auntie. You go to them, be like, hey, what's the best way to, not paying taxes? I'm making a lot of money not paying taxes. They ain't owned a business since forever, never. And you asking them for advice. One thing that everybody hears, oh, write everything off. Now you basically put an ankle bracelet on and shot yourself in the foot, and you're trying to run a race. You're never going to hit the finish line. Because now that your business is growing, you're not showing income, how you going to expand? You understand? And the only way to expand is leverage. Showing income, you can leverage banks' money. It's all about OPE. You know what I'm saying? OPM, other people's money.
Yep.
You utilize that and leverage, you'll win all day. But you have to learn the difference and what you can write off and what you can't write off, and why you should and why you shouldn't. And the difference between basically all the lucrative things you have.
That's real good. Can you give us maybe the top three things you would recommend people, and we'll focus on the group home space, right? Or unlicensed group homes. What are like some of the top things you think should be a no brainer for people to write off? I know there's a ton of them, but just like a couple examples.
So once you're in the group home space and you go ahead and let's just say you purchase a property. So I'm gonna give you some game. Once you purchase a property,
Let's do it.
okay, real estate has more tax benefits than any other thing in the tax code. You understand? I mean, you can take a person who's making six fingers at their job and attach some real estate to them. You can structure, if you want to, for them to get a return and write off all that ordinary income, all that taxable income they got from their W-2 job, just because of real estate. You can go ahead and write off the mortgage interest if you want to. You can write off, do a cost seg, and that's a powerhouse on its own.
You said a cost said.
Yes, sir. So basically, what that is that you get to go into the house and itemize and write off all different things. Like you can write off the equipment, like as you just bought this brand new washer and dryer. You can write that off. So basically, you can take the value of everything in that house and then utilize that to offset your income that you made from the group home. And that's a powerful, powerful play.
That's huge. Okay. So if you're buying real estate and still have the W-2 job, there's no reason to be paying taxes, and you might be able to get a return, is what I'm hearing.
Also, the bill just passed. I think it still has to go to it passed the one party. It has to go to the next party. But they're trying to bring 100% bonus depreciation back. That right there. So basically, you always wondered why you see all these millionaires. They go ahead and buy these Lamborghinis, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 cars. So as long as the car meets the profile for the write-off, you can go buy that car and do 100% bonus depreciation on it. And basically, whatever the value of that car, you can basically offset your income that you already have. You need a car anyway, so why not roll in luxury, write it off, and you don't have to pay, less in your taxes.
You dropping gems, man. I want to go deeper into, to get even to that point of writing things off, right? You gotta set up your entity, right? So what would you say is the biggest mistake people make when they're setting up their LLC initially?
Everybody does not, they don't understand the difference between cost and value. All right. Everybody who's wanting to come from the W-2 or the employee base to the entrepreneur space is a whole different mindset. You understand? You sit there and be like, oh, this costs $60 or $70 a month, right? But you don't understand the value of this $70 is going to open a door for tens of thousands on the funding side. So one of the things that a lot of people try to escape on is basically business address. They don't want to spend the money to get a proper business address. They want to use their home address. But they don't understand once you use a home address, that's going to, Ray comes to your group home, gets mad at you. He looks up your company. Oh, he going to be knocking on your front door. Somebody, hey, I know you in there. And it was just because you didn't want to spend the $60 or $70 a month to get a proper address. You understand? There are cheaper options out there. You have to do more red tape to vet those. But first common mistake, business address, business email. You can't be grouphome@gmail.com. That's not professional. Yeah. It has to be either info or your first initial last name at your company name. Now you're starting to look professional. Now you're starting to look like the other type of businesses, because big business only want to do business with people that look like big business.
Right. No, 1,000%. And then when setting it up, I know there's a LLC, S Corp, C Corp. Which option should somebody select, and why would you recommend them selecting that option?
There's a big debate going on where LLC or corporation or S Corp, a lot of those really are tax designations. You know what I'm saying? LLC passed through, S Corp, now you're putting yourself on payroll. But there should be different levels, all right, of what you're doing. Start out at LLC. You understand? It's pretty much a no-brainer. You're able to get in a low barrier entry, test the waters, limited liability corporation. Once you start being able to do owner's draws and take out at least 35, 40,000, once you hit that threshold, now you need to file to be an S Corp. All right, and all that is basically just filing some paperwork, IRS or whatever, how you want to be taxed. You understand? That's the only difference between those two. And then the C corp is basically if you want to take your company public, if you want to. It's just basically a tax designation. I don't recommend you do a C corp until you start making a lot of money.
What's a lot that you recommend for the C corp? Ballpark.
I would say one, if you're ready to take the company public, or you making above 6-7 figures.
Gotcha. Okay, I like it. And how important is selecting the right? I might mess this up. NAICS code if you're looking for funding. How important is selecting the right code there?
To basically simplify, remember I like everything simple. To basically simplify how to get money from the banks is to look less risky. All right. They're trying to do is mitigate risk. They don't know you from a hole in the ground. And you coming to get, basically a year's salary unsecured. What I mean by that at 50, 60, 70, $100,000, right? So if you sit there with let's just say a financial NAICS code, a trucking NAICS code, any one of those, they're going to be red flags because they know that those particular entities or business designations are the most to default on. Okay. The whole basis of the banks lending money is to get their interest back and to get their money back. If you look risky, they don't want to lend to you.
Got it. That makes sense. And so we got a lot of people that are, I'm sure, going to be listening that are starting from ground zero and wanting to open, an independent living home or unlicensed group home. People have different terms for it. So if someone were coming to you and let's say they have $0 right now, what strategies or what steps would you recommend them take to put themselves in a position to get funding down the road?
All right. So first and foremost, what I would do is make sure your business is structured correctly because you brand new, you understand, and first impressions are everything. You want to go ahead and have the proper business name. What I mean by that is it can't be ABC Trucking. It can't be XYZ Real Estate. It can't be none of those. Amazon, if you look it up, it has something to do with the jungle. That's what comes to mind. But it doesn't scream retail. You understand? So you got to get a generic name. Like look at Apple. You never thought that would be related to tech.
Right.
You understand? So get a generic name, and that's going to be your name. Your name is different from how you brand. All right? So that is extremely powerful. Your name is going to be generic. You're going to brand whatever you do, okay? So get your proper address, proper business name, all right? You want to go ahead and get a business email address, business phone number, okay? You want to pick the proper NAICS code, all right? The banks when you go into a bank, they're going to ask you, what do you do? You basically tell them what you do. But also, too, when they're filling out the application or giving you your account, you tell them, say, hey, you already have a pre-designated NAICS code picked out, and you give that to them. Once you give that to them, they'll be able to put you in the right risk classification that you want to be for funding later on down the road. Because right now it's just the initial stage of making that relationship, basically saying hello. So once you have all of those things, right, you want to have a website, you understand? And your website, I always say have two websites, one the bank sees and one that your client sees. What the bank sees is going to be something generic along the lines leading to what you're currently doing for business, but you're not giving them a whole bunch of detail because you might be operating some kind of way, or they might pick out one thing out of your website that, hey, this guy might be risky, and they don't know what you're doing. So once you have all of those things set up, now you're ready to go ahead and start that relationship with the bank.
That's good stuff. Wow, you just gave a whole masterclass on how someone should set up their entity the right way and be in a position to get funded.
There's more. There's more to it. Definitely put yourself on 411 so they can see you. Listyourself.net. There's a lot of things, to be visible. As long as they see your business visible everywhere, then they were like, okay, this person is really doing business.
Mhm.
Because if they don't see your name everywhere, then they're gonna be like, okay, is he just playing around, or is this something new? Do they know what they're doing? Because when you're starting a business, you're supplying a service or a product. If nobody can't find you, how are you going to supply that service or product? How are you going to pay the bank back? So these are all the little things they're looking for. to see how you're going to transact business so that you can give them their money back, because that's all they want.
That's good. And so with that though, and getting set up the right way and using the strategy, how important is personal credit with this and when it comes to funding? And if someone doesn't have the best personal credit, are they just stuck, or what are some options they could do there?
So right now, the whole country is in financial turmoil. You got tariffs coming about. I was looking up the other day for the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. You understand? It was like $300 or $400 a couple months ago. Now it's sold out, and they want $800 to $1,000 for that thing because of the tariff. So things and times are changing within the country. Things and times are restricting because of the country, because we're not knowing what we're doing. This is the first time that we're in trade wars with other countries. So we don't know what we're doing. And that is a rippling effect on down to the banks. In July, the regulators are going to start requiring the banks to have more reserves for the money they lend out. So basically, to simplify that is that all the qualifications that you needed to go ahead and get 5, 10, 15, 25, $30,000 from the banks, now those qualifications are going to be greater. So now personal credit is going to be more than ever important. So we used to talk 680 will get you in the door. That's probably going to be gone by the wayside come July. You have to be strong 700. What I mean by that is a lot of people, so you can get a 700 credit score with one credit card, a car loan, some student loan, just basically what we call a thin profile. You can have a 700 right there. You can actually have like a 750. But you can also take somebody with a 700 and they have 10 or 15 credit cards. They have an auto loan, personal loan, they done paid off, a mortgage. They have 10 plus years of trade lines as far as the age. Their FICO score is lower, but their profile is stronger. You understand? So a lot of times it's not about the numbers, all about the profile.
It's all about the profile, so not about the numbers. I know a lot of people will focus on the numbers, meaning like the credit score, right? You're saying, hey, that's not as important as the profile or the credit report that is actually being shown to the banks. Is that correct?
Correct. So the number can be manipulated. Because once you know what you know, you can manipulate it. So you don't have no personal loans. You can get Kickoff, Kovo, all of those credit builders, loan self. You understand? Put those on there. You can get a secured card. You can get one of those fee harvester cards like Credit One, Merrick Banks, Open Sky, those type cards, right? And as long as you're doing the right things, you could potentially get into the 700s. Now, that's the way underneath, that's the way that credit profile looks of all those things underneath that number, right? So if you see the number is 700 and something, but all of those things are underneath, it tells a story. When you look at the profile, okay, why does he have self, Kovo, rent reporters, all of those things? This guy is either building credit or rebuilding credit. So just by looking at your accounts, you can tell what stage of the credit game you're in, either rebuilding or building. Understand? So by looking at the profile, now that person with the 700 or 720 with all of those things, now you look at person B, they have Amex, Chase. You understand? They go ahead and have, one personal loan paid off. They have access to a line of credit. You understand? They have a car loan. They have a mortgage. You understand? The profile is a lot stronger. This person is managing different types of trade lines. It's all about juggling. What can you juggle?
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a ton of sense, actually. Curious, man. You touched on it before, not on this conversation, but on another one that we had off camera. Have you ever helped someone get fully funded and they just went out and kind of fumbled the bag?
Yes, sir. It happened more than once. But the main story, I can't mention their name because I know they're going to probably see this, but had a person, they was low 500s. Even one of them, but one of their scores were, I believe, were high fours. And we went ahead, started the credit repair process, right? And this took a year. getting stuff off, started getting open accounts, getting her secured cards, graduating from the secured cards, then building with the right accounts, not dealing with the kickoffs and stuff like that. I was building the correct way. And boom, I think her top score was, I want to say it was around a 780.
780.
Yeah,
Wow, that's a big jump.
once we were done. And she had a business to where she was selling products, and it was in health and beauty sector. So she had aspirations to be a business owner, not knowing business. So I taught her how to go ahead and source products that she needed to mix for her product. And I showed her how to price it based on, okay, take however many ounces of this, how many ounces you need to take out, and find the actual number. What is your number? A lot of people don't know their number. They just price something because they want to price it that way. Not knowing your number, you're going to be losing numbers as far as when you're selling the product. So help them with all of that.
Can you break that down though? What do you mean by their number and not knowing their number?
Case in point for the group home space.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So per client, they're going to bring in X amount of dollars. There's two ways of getting into this. One is rental arbitrage, where you go out and rent somebody else's property, do a corporate lease or whatever, and you're renting for somebody else's property. Now the client is renting from you.
Right.
Or you can go and buy a house or rehab a house, you understand, and then now the house is yours, the client pays you, and you give them space. All right. Both scenarios, you're going to have either a rent amount or a mortgage amount. You understand? So if your mortgage is $4,000 and you bringing in less than what your mortgage is, there's something wrong with that.
Numbers not the math's not mathing.
The math is not mathing. Case in point, same thing. If you rent a nice house and you don't have enough people in the house, you're never going to be in the black. You understand? You'll always be in the red because you didn't know your numbers. Every customer has a number or a value. Know what that is. So what do you say the average in the group home space, the average person is about $700 a month?
Yeah, across the US we're seeing like for a shared bed anywhere between 600 to 800 a month. So 700 is good to go with.
700. So just to do simple math, so you got a 4-bedroom house, right?
Yep.
And between rent, utilities, and all the mandatory stuff you have to pay, let's just say $2,000 to keep the math short, right? You know that you need at least 3 people at $700 to even cover your necessities.
Right.
So now you know, okay, I need more than 3 to make a profit. Less than 3, I'm in trouble.
Right.
So that's how you know your numbers.
That makes sense.
You understand? So if I haven't, people are graduating, moving on, different transitions, stuff like that, and now I'm down to 4. Now we're definitely too low. You understand? Now I need to go market. So knowing your numbers lets you know how you need to pivot or what you got to do more of.
Got it. No, it makes complete sense. And sorry for getting you sidetracked on that, but you were saying that your client that you were helping get funded, she didn't know her number and what she was looking to do. So you want to pick things back up from there?
Yes, sir. So I went ahead and helped her and showed her how to break down each product, how much it costs to make each product, and what her profit margin was when she sells it. All right. So once we got all of that together, she set up her website, everything. I told her, say, hey, you got to you have this amount of money for market and budget. Use this credit card. You have this amount for products. Use this credit card. So I mapped everything out. You understand? And I'm like, you good? I'm good, G. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, cool. Fast forward, some time has went by. I get a phone call. And the phone call started off like this. Hey, G, how you doing? I'm doing good. Don't be mad. And instantly, when you hear that, don't be mad, you know you about to be mad because it's going to be it's going to be some foolishness. To make a long story short, she blew $115,000.
$115?
Yes, sir.
How much did you get her funded for?
I think it was right around 140.
So she had a 460 credit score, give or take. You got her up to, I think you said, to where her highest one then was a 780.
Yeah.
You got her funded for 140K. Now, was this like business credit cards, or were there loans in it? Was it a mix?
It was a mix between credit cards and loans.
Okay. And she blew 115,000. Well, then, she must have bought a lot of products for her health store that you helped her like learn the number for her products and stuff like that, right? So she was able to hopefully get an ROI from the product she bought.
If she would have bought that with inventory, we could have fixed that. But here's what I talked about before, right? She went and talked to her friends. Her friends got in the ear. And they was like, you need to go do this. If you want to market this right here, because remember it's health and beauty. You
Yep.
need to maybe, get some enhancements. Everybody's into, enhancements, getting your body done, stuff like that. All right. Whatever you do is whatever you do. So she went ahead and did that. Another friend was like, oh, you need to do this in Cancun, and do it like this. And it was just a whole lot of stuff. And to make a long story short, she blew $115,000. If she would have got it in inventory, we could market to get that off the shelf or wholesale to do something to lessen the bleeding. But when you mismanage the money, you used it for cosmetic surgery, some of it cosmetic surgery. The other stuff, you was letting people say, hey, you should invest in my business. That's another thing too. Once you get funded, keep the eye on the prize, because if people know you have money, they were like, hey, won't you partner with me with this?
Mm.
That's like Sammy Davis Jr. and Ray Charles, what I'm saying, trying to cross. Both of them are blind. You understand? And they trying to cross the street. You understand? And, excuse me, Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles. Both of them
Gotcha.
are trying to cross the street. Nobody can see. Both of y'all don't really know business, but you trying to invest in something just because you have the money. I
Right.
always say, once you get funded, every dollar you send out, you need to know when you send it out, you're going to get $45 back. So don't send it out. Don't spend it. Swipe the card, whatever you got to do. Don't do that until you know you got 45 coming back. But to finish
Wow.
the story, so she went ahead and she blew the money on her lifestyle. She thought that her mindset wasn't for, she didn't have the right mindset for the money. And, her friends got in her ear. And between trips, lifestyle changes, cars, and enhancements, she blew that money. And I'm good at moving money around, but I'm not Jesus. And what she needed was what she had to do. I mean, unfortunately, she had to file bankruptcy. You understand? Because at this point, she didn't have no products. She would have to get somebody to front her the products, basically on bad credit. Because now, once you get funded and you utilize the money on what you spend, it goes to the business credit reporting agencies. And if you over leveraged under your business, nobody's going to want to lend to you.
Mm.
So once you get funded, the rule of thumb is if you got 50% out there, don't go over 50%. You get 70, 80, 90%. Now you have to pay that back down before you can go get more funding.
Got it.
And she
Got it.
was just too over leveraged to fix it. So now the way I fund is, what is your relationship to money? How much money can you handle? And I'm getting to understand basically their habits and their mindset. And when we have that real conversation, I know I can get you X amount of dollars, which probably might be more than you can handle. So now let's start off with this, because the money's going to be there. Let's start off with this, see how
Mhm.
you do with that, and we can go and get more.
Makes sense. So what should someone actually do with their first 50 to $100,000 of business funding?
First off, take a portion of it, invest in yourself. I mean, you may have a great idea, phenomenal, I mean, top tier, but you don't know business at this point. Go find somebody to mentor you, because the fastest way and the safest way to cross a minefield is to find a person that crossed it already. They know where the mines are. They can show you through the path or how to get from one side to the other. Invest in yourself. Remember when I told you about value and cost? Yes. The
Right.
value of it's going to cost you something, but the value you get in return I started businesses. When I first started my business, I made just about every mistake you can possibly get. I made it. You understand? It was tough. It was struggling. It was like sleepless nights. You sitting there, you be like, man, what am I gonna do? I got X amount of dollars. I got to find a way to pay this back.
Yep.
But I pioneered that. So now I learned the value of investing in yourself. Yeah, it might $1,000, $2,500, $3,000, but now you got a way to make high six figures and whatever you're doing. And then once you get good at that, that mentor can show you how to scale it to 7 by getting processes, by getting automations. The less you pull yourself out of the business, the more profitable the business is going to be. So first, get that mentor. Second, what you want to do, and once you get funded, is have a plan. Gotta have a plan, and you gotta have a budget. Those are the main things you gotta know. Once you have the plan, once you have a budget, you can start moving the way you need to move.
Have the plan, have the budget, and know your number. I learned that. Know your number. You should be all good to go. No, I really like what you shared there, especially about investing in a mentor. It's just so much easier to follow the steps and missteps that somebody may have already taken. That way, you don't either make those same mistakes like you mentioned with the minefield, or the success blueprint. It's there. It's laid out. Just learn from their experiences and take it that way. So I 100% agree with that being the first step. No matter how good you think your idea is, there probably is someone else out there who can help you, bring that idea to fruition a little bit quicker than you would be able to do on your own. Um, what would you say is a tax loophole that most people don't know about but should be using right now?
A tax loophole. So, one of the most powerful tax loopholes, both on the personal and the business side, understanding life insurance that's one of the most powerful things because, yes, all right, case in point, I had a client, good guy, married a wife, good person. Sometimes all good intentions, sometimes they part ways. He started a business, growing his business, met his wife. Now, hey, now they're getting a divorce. There's child support, there's alimony. You understand? And when you part ways, sometimes what you had before, half of it's now gone to the other person. Whether that's right or wrong, that's here nor there. But that's what happens. The only thing that is 1,000% bulletproof that you can put your money in, and it's basically like MC Hammer says, can't touch this. It's life insurance. Had another client, had all this money, put in life insurance, put in the assets, stuff like that, and had the same thing. Good intentions sometimes don't last. They parted ways. She was in there saying, hey, he has this amount of money, this amount of money. He drives this car, this stuff like that. And the judge was like, is that true? You like, I don't own anything, Your Honor. The car I drive, that's a company car. I just work for the company. The money she says I have in the bank account, I have, less than $5,000 in the bank account. But she was like, no, he has millions of dollars, this, that, and the third. On paper, it wasn't there. You understand? So he was like, how much money you have in your wallet? Told him how much he had in his wallet, how much he was in the bank account. That's what they based it on. Guy was a millionaire. Wow. But it was in the one thing that you cannot touch. Probate, anything you try to throw at it, you can't get out of it. The tax benefits of it. You can put the money in there. It can grow, triple, quadruple, just depending on how much time you have. And then you can take the money back out tax-free. And you don't have to pay. I mean, Uncle Sam can see it in your bank account, and he can't think of a tax law to go get it.
Interesting. All right. Well, I don't know anything about life insurance, so that's going to have to be something that maybe we have another conversation about at a later date. But is there a specific type of policy that you would say someone needs to, look up or do some research on, or is it just, speak to, a life insurance broker and they'd be able to point them in the right direction?
Not a broker, because there's a lot of people that sell life insurance, but there's not a lot of people that knows how to use life insurance. Because a lot of people sell life insurance just for a death benefit or because it has some other benefits pertaining to health. They might not know the financial benefit of how do you retire tax-free or how do you offset a six-figure. You may have a 401k and now you're about to retire. How do you offset the income or taxes you're going to pay on that? Life insurance can do it if it's structured the right way. So there's all things are different depending on who's selling it to you or who's implementing it to you. So if a person tells you, oh, you need this type without asking you your situation, it's the wrong person. Every policy or strategy I use, I understand the person's needs, wants, and what they want it to do first before I implement product, because there's a bunch of different types of life insurance. You understand? And I believe really and truly everybody should have one. Business owners should have more than one, because you all know FDIC is only insured 250,000. Hopefully you're gonna make more money in that. Another Silicon Valley happens, you have 10 mil in the bank, 250,000, that's all you get. Something happens. But if you put it in assets like it's life insurance, you understand nothing will ever happen to it. And then if anything happens to you, you can pass it on to your family.
Game
It will
changer.
always be there. Yeah.
Game
And then
changer.
also you can structure a life insurance policy to lower your taxes.
Hmm. Okay. All
Remember I
right.
told you life insurance. Remember I told you taxes are ghetto.
That's a really good loophole you're bringing up, man. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to dive deeper on the life insurance thing. And like you said, what you say, taxes are ghetto. What
Yes,
is
sir.
what how much of you, one, you've been in the tax credit funding space for how long now?
So how this all started? I started off in the financial arena back in 2008. Really, that's when I got licensed. My wife started in 2006,
Okay.
and I was in the trucking industry. And when we got married in 2008, and we did our taxes, I'm a truck driver. I was making decent money. I was doing my thing.
Yep.
But then I saw my wife's income. My wife's income up here, mine is down here. I started to feel some type of way, like, hold on, wait a minute, I'm a grown man here, but she's making more money than me. It's
Yep.
cool, but it's not cool at the same time. So I had to learn and understand what she was doing and how it is. What I did is I started learning, and when I started learning, I got mentorship. Once I got mentorship, I got into the books. And then once I got into the books, God is good, because the person who taught me insurance and finance, he has a doctorate and he has a concentration in taxes.
Hmm.
So everything he taught me and my wife was all centered around not paying taxes. I could have got a mentor. I actually met somebody years before that just sold life insurance. He made a lot of money, but all he knew how to do is sell life insurance. He did not know how to use a strategy behind selling life insurance to go ahead and use that as a tool instead of just a product.
Hmm.
So back in '08, that's when I started learning about the financial arena and using life insurance in it. And then by dealing with clients, that's how I started to understand about credit. That's how I started to understand about funding, because you deal with somebody on a personal side, it's no telling what they have on the other side. A lot of our clients were both, they on the personal side made a good income, but then they might have had a business, or they might have got a inheritance or something like that. So you got to learn, kind of tax implications on where to put their money, so that when they go to take it out or transfer it, that they're not going to be burdened by taxes. So that's how that journey started in '08. And it just, as the years went by, me dealing with different types of clientele. And then I found out that all the people I was dealing with were business owners or real estate professionals. And the only way that, in order to make money in a business, you have to find a problem and then find a solution.
Right.
And then once you find a problem and you give them a solution, that's in turn how you're gonna make money. So I found out that these solutions needed dealt around credit, and dealt around about gaining the money, and dealing around keeping the money. So once I went ahead and learned that, and like I said, mentorships, I paid thousands upon thousands of mentors on money on mentorships.
Hmm.
And once I learned that, because there's different games, there's different levels to this. The guy who owns Amazon, he doesn't pay any taxes.
Hmm.
The one, and I just to make a long story short about that, he leverages debt. You don't pay taxes on debt.
Right.
But there's a lot more to that. But that's how I started learning these things, because I dealt with people who made 50,000. Then I started getting clients that made hundreds of thousands. Then I started dealing with clients that makes millions of dollars, and eight figures, nine figures. They're good at what they're good at. They don't know the financial game. That's where we came into. So, that's how I started learning about one. I was teaching them about how to not pay taxes and their finances. They taught me on how they got to that point. My dad, made a whole lot of money, but he never made seven figures. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
Those clients taught me what they had to do to get the seven figures.
Right.
And I just incorporated both of those two, me and my wife, and we built the business around that.
That's beautiful, man. And you said your wife was in the game, 2 years before you. So eventually, we might have to get her on here to have a have a conversation as well.
Yeah, you see all those books behind me?
Yep.
That's what's in her head.
Wow. Yeah,
You
we're definitely
understand?
gonna.
And she stays on top of, if you look at our Amazon account, majority of what she gets are books on different tax codes, tax laws, tax implications, basically anything dealing around taxes. If she sees this, she's probably gonna kill me, but she's a nerd on that. And that's the kind of person you need on your team that's always into the taxes, because taxes are changing.
Right.
Taxes last year are completely they completely look different than how they are going to be this year. It's always changing, it's always moving. You always got to stay on top of what you know. You always have to inspect what you expect.
I like that. And ballpark, how much would you say you've helped people get funded? Since you've been in business.
I had thought about that when you told me about this, and I went back through all the people that I've gotten funded that I listed. There was a time I was funding people, and that was the beginning stages. So I had a beginning stage where I was funding people for free just to see how it worked.
Mm.
I didn't want to charge nobody any money until I know I had a proven process that if I do this, they go get approval for this.
Yep.
Until I did that a couple of times, I didn't want to charge anybody. If I'm doing this first time, I'm gonna charge you this right here and to see how this works. And you sit there crossing your fingers, I hit submit. I missed it that was So I in those few years I never tracked it. But all in all, to be honest, I want to say I'm right around close to 20 million, close to 20 million over the years.
Yep. That's amazing, man. And how many years we talking? Did you start funding in like
I started the whole credit thing after Gianna was 2011. So right around 2012, 2013, 2014-ish.
that's
That's when
amazing.
I started.
That's amazing, man. Well, on behalf of all the people you've worked with, thanks for, not keeping your expertise to yourself and assisting people and getting funding to start their businesses. And I know you probably have a few clients like the story you gave earlier who did make the best decisions with their funding, but I know that you've been blessing people inside the Kingdom Housing community, helping people get funded in there so that they can open up their own independent living home. So we're going to make sure we leverage your brilliance, you and your wife's brilliance, the right way. I just want to thank you again for taking the time to connect. I think it's been amazing. I think the audience is going to get a ton of value from just this conversation. Where can people, go, or if they want to continue a conversation with you or learn more from you directly or your wife, where can people go?
You can reach us at thefinancialpreneurs.com.
Financialpreneurs.com. I like it. And we'll make sure to include the link to the website and down in the description as well. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been an awesome conversation. And not to put you on the spot, but any last words of advice that you would give to someone listening to this? It could be around structuring their entity, funding, connecting with banks, anything. What would you say if it was what's a better way for me to structure it? If it was the last piece of advice that you're able to give somebody, and it's like after this, you're no longer helping people get funding, you're no longer educating anybody else. What would you want people to know from you?
Get the foundation. Don't I understand you have a great idea, you have a great service, you got a great product, but the money will always be there. Set the foundation first one time. And then once you set the foundation, because SBA has earmarked $5 million for everybody who owns a business, but they're not gonna lend you the 5 million, if you're not set up correctly, if your credit's shot,
Right.
you understand, you're not going to get those favorable rates unless you have that foundation. And then now you got that 5 mil, you always have to have a mentor, because you probably was good at handling 60,000 a year. Now you got 5 million, you got to understand there's some things. When you spend this money, how's it going to be taxed? How how is everything going to be for you? So get a mentor, set the foundation, and that's including your personal credit.
Makes sense, man. All right, Gladston, everybody. Thank you so much again, sir, for taking the time, and looking forward to connecting with you on the next one.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Anything you need, I'm there for you.
Appreciate you, man. Talk to you soon.
All right.
All right.